out of town that Dallas is the reigning Bon Appetit restaurant city of the year. We're proud of our service industry and of our vibrant and diverse economy. But this is the time that we have to focus on the greatest asset we have in this city, and that is our people and our communities. Your city government is taking the steps that it deems necessary to flatten the curve of this global pandemic and to save lives. And we're going to get through this because the people of Dallas are strong. Take individual responsibility for ensuring that we make it through this difficult time. As I've said repeatedly, practice good hygiene and social distancing. Wash your hands regularly with soap for 20 seconds. Cover your sneezes and your coughs. Avoid crowds of any size if you can avoid it. Quit shaking hands. Stay at home when you're sick. Check in on your neighbors. Exchange contact information in your neighborhoods. And if you know someone who's in a vulnerable population, find a way to help them. You might feel anxious that the coronavirus seems to be out of your control. And you might feel resigned to it. And I understand that. The fight against this disease will require some sacrifice. But what I know about this city, which I've called home my entire life, is that Dallas does not bow to fear. Ever. This is a city that when faced with a challenge comes together and shows the world that we have the compassion, the resolve, the grit, and the grace to get through difficult times. We all have parts to play in this fight. Today, we're playing our part by issuing these new regulations. Now it's time for all of you to play your part. Be responsible. Be patient. Be generous. Be good to one another. And be bigger than yourself. With that, I want to say thank you, and I'm going to turn it over now to our city manager, T.C. Broadnax.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your leadership as well as council during the developments of these new regulations. As the mayor indicated, the actions that we are taking today are unprecedented, but necessary during these difficult times. Our top priority is and always will be the health and welfare of the residents in the city of Dallas. In keeping with the current CDC guidelines and to lessen the impact of the virus on our city and to save lives, effective, as the mayor indicated, 11:59 p.m. this evening, the following new emergency regulations will take effect. First, public and or private community gatherings of 50 or more people will be prohibited. Dine-in restaurant service will not be allowed. Restaurants, microbreweries, microdistilleries, or wineries may only provide takeout, delivery, or drive-in or drive-through service as it relates to them being able to provide customer service based on the law. Certain entertainment and amusement establishments must be closed. This includes bars, lounges, taverns, private clubs, gyms and health clubs, and commercial amusement and theaters. Dallas is a resilient city, and we have faced difficult times before. I am confident that we will get through these current challenges and will work to make sure and ensure that our citizens emerge stronger as well as be united. We will now take questions from the audience.
I'll repeat the question. The question is, how does the city plan to enforce these regulations? TC.
Great question. So our code enforcement department is responsible for the enforcement of the city's codes and ordinances, particularly around restaurant establishments, as well as with the support of DPD and other departments as necessary as we identify violations of current regulations.
They just closed all restaurants and stores in Dallas.
So we're going to do, everything we can. We will be looking and discussing the reprioritization of certain types of activities of the various departments from DPD as well as code to heighten our focus, again, on the enforcement of these regulations at the expense of some of the more minor code enforcement related infractions and violations that go on throughout the city. Yes, 311 would be the appropriate mechanism as typical, and then that would be routed accordingly based on the city's infrastructure.
Right here, just get them. They're too big. It's better safe than sorry. I'm wearing these all day.
Right. The question is, how does the city plan to help mitigate the effects on businesses?
We're going to be discussing the extension of this disaster declaration. Pursuant to that discussion, I anticipate there will be the beginnings of our council's deliberations about the steps that need to be taken to mitigate the damage economically and otherwise from this. So we're hopeful that the federal government, state government, local government will all be working together to find all the ways possible to cushion the blow that we know is coming in terms of the closures. We know will have an impact on our local economy. We don't want to mislead anybody about that. We want to be mindful of that, and we want to think every way we possibly can to preserve our local economy and our people's way of life. So that's something that the council is definitely going to have to look at and take up. In the short term, we're focused on the actual public health aspect of this. I can't really emphasize that enough. This is first and foremost about preserving health, safety, and welfare. It's our first responsibility as government. But we were also going to be mindful, as much as I can say about that at this point.
The question is, how long will the restrictions remain in place? Right now, that's a council decision. This declaration applies for 7 days from when it was issued. The council will vote on Wednesday whether to extend it and for how long to extend it. So on Wednesday, there will be a special called city council meeting at which the city council will vote to either extend the declaration or to let it expire. So at that time, they will determine for how long that declaration will be extended if they vote to extend it.
Okay.
The actual proclamation will be considered on Wednesday. By rule, the actual regulations that we're issuing now, it's an up or down vote on the proclamation itself, if that makes sense. The question is whether Dallas is considering a curfew.
This pandemic response is fascinating because it is so rapidly changing. It's evolving.
It's airborne.
Hour by, not day by day, hour by hour learning process. And we are in constant communication, first and foremost, with health professionals, federal, state, county, our own city health professionals.